Welcome back to Old School Sports and our OOTP 22 playthrough of the New York Yankees. We are at the beginning of the 2036 playoffs. The Yankees once again in the postseason, glittering 108 and 54 record, the best in baseball, won the American League East by 26 games over the Boston Red Sox this year. Just waiting to find out whether we will be playing the White Sox, who knocked us out three straight in the ALDS last year, or the Los Angeles Angels in the ALDS this season. So should find out the results of that shortly. The roster is in pretty good shape as we get ready for the playoffs. We have some older, injury-prone players on the team. But the only real significant loss is Jack Leiter, who would have been our number 3 starter, ruptured his UCL several weeks ago, obviously out until probably the middle stages of next season. So unfortunately, we won't have Leiter for the playoffs. Also down another starter, Ruben Mariona, who had not been pitching incredibly well this year and probably would have been in the bullpen rather than the rotation, so not as significant a loss there for us. And Alex Guardado also out with a torn rotator cuff, but he was really only pitching in AAA for us this year. So we are in pretty good shape as the postseason begins. The goal of this team, as it is every year with the Yankees, is to win the World Series. We are in the final year of our contract as the general manager of the Yankees. Ends in, well, it will end whenever the season ends, hopefully not for several weeks. Owner Brad Kreider, not pleased with us. He's very focused on profitability and has been wanting us to cut our payroll. You can see there that his priority is extreme profit. Our priority has been trying to win games, which we've done a pretty good job at the last few seasons. And he expects us to win the championship this year. So if we win the championship, all will be well in the Bronx. Anything short of that will quite honestly be a disappointment. And the White Sox and the Braves both won the wild card games. So we will be hosting the Chicago White Sox here. Game 1 today in New York, our ace Bobby Chapa on the mound for us was 11-8 with a 4.33 ERA this year, 171 strikeouts in 133 innings as he missed a decent amount of time due to injuries. For the White Sox, Wilnie Kelleher on the mound, the 30-year-old, 13-9 with a 3.44 ERA and 203 strikeouts. Looking at the two teams, the Yankees led the American League in runs scored, but were only 5th in runs against. The White Sox, kind of the opposite, 6th in the league in runs scored, but they have number 1 ranking in runs against. So the best pitching in the American League against the best hitting in the American League here in the ALDS. And the White Sox did defeat us last year in the ALDS 3-0. So hopefully this series will be an opportunity for some revenge for the Bronx Bombers. Game 1, and the Yankees win 6-5. Looks like a thriller. Came back. We're down 5-3, and then the Yankees scored 2 in the 8th to tie it and 1 in the 9th to win at home. Good start from Chapa and Kevin Blunt with a walk-off run-scoring single as a pinch hitter. So big game for the Yankees. Pinch hitting for Victor Mejias. Blunt comes through. Got home runs from Gabe Colon and Dave Bravo, both of whom we signed to long-term extensions last offseason. And Chapa only allowed 1 run over 5 1/3 innings. So first game went about as well as could hope for the Yankees to take a 1-0 lead here in the 2036 ALDS. Moving on to game number 2, Tyson Neighbors, who only pitched 8 games in 37 innings in the majors this year, did not win a single game, 0-1 with a 4.38 ERA, spent most of the year on the injured list, but is back now as our number 2 starter. We'll be going up against Jose Ocampo, 9-7 with a 4.41 ERA. What will Neighbors do in the big spot after not pitching much the entire year? And he came through, gets the victory as the Yankees win 10-2. Home run from potential American League MVP Kevin Daniels for the Yankees. So the series is off to an excellent start for the Yankees. Just one game away from a potential matchup in the American League Championship Series. And trying to clinch that trip to the ALCS, Josh Brown, who the Yankees acquired right before the trade deadline, you can see was very ineffective for us. 3-3 record with a 7.33 ERA. Would not be pitching in this game if Leiter had been healthy. But we're glad to have him aboard, and hopefully he can be more productive in the playoffs for the Yankees than he was in his 12 games with us during the regular season. Going up against Vasquez for the White Sox, 9-11 with a 4.19 ERA as the Yankees try to get the sweep here in Chicago. And the series is over. Yankees win 6-3. The veteran Bo Bichette, who homered in the game, wins the ALDS MVP award in what may likely be his final year with the Yankees. You can see he had a brilliant season at the age of 38, batting .295 with 35 homers and 104 runs batted in. Big bounce-back season compared to his injury-plagued 2035, and he comes through in the clutch. And Brown, after that very weak regular season with us, went 6 1/3, only allowing 1 run, struck out 7. So an excellent performance as New York sweeps its way into the American League Championship Series. And in the ALCS, the Yankees will be taking on the Oakland A's, who beat their former divisional rivals back when they were all in the American League West many years ago, the Kansas City Royals, 3-2. The A's, the only other team in the American League with 100 wins, 101 wins for Oakland this year. So big matchup between the Yankees and the A's in the American League Championship Series. Over in the National League, it's going to be the Cubs and the Mets. The Cubs with the second most wins in baseball behind only the Yankees. So if the Yankees are able to get by the A's, we will have the 2 winningest teams in baseball in the World Series. If the Mets happen to beat the Cubs but the Yankees still get by, we will have a Subway Series. But before either of those things can happen, the Yankees will need to get past the Oakland A's, who were 4th in the American League in runs scored and 2nd in the league in runs against this year. Yankees ace Bobby Chappa on the mound against Oakland's Chris Hopwood, 14-3 with a 2.71 ERA, 197 strikeouts, and 166 1/3 innings pitched. So very good pitcher on the mound for Oakland as the ALCS begins. And the pitch is great for the A's. Hopwood gets the win. The A's win 6-0. So a big win for Oakland and an unfortunate loss for the Yankees here to start off the American League Championship Series. Moving to Game 2, Tyson Neighbors on the mound as the Yankees try to bounce back against Jorge Boyer, who is 9-6 with a 4.03 ERA for Oakland. And the Yankees do bounce back to win 4-3. Neighbors gets the W. Yankees with a big win at home to even the series. Excellent performance from Tyson Neighbors. 7 innings pitched, only 2 earned runs allowed. 2.13 ERA for him here in the playoffs with a couple of victories at this point. So he appears to have recovered from that injury that cost him most of the regular season. So the Yankees have evened things up as we begin to prepare to head out to the West Coast to play the A's in Oakland. Josh Brown, who won the clinching Game 3 against Chicago, on the mound for the Yankees against Bob Stover. 5-4 with a 4.45 ERA in 12 games for Oakland. Looks like he came over from Washington near the trade deadline. So a couple of players who were picked up at the trade deadline for teams that were pushing to win in 2036, matching up here in this critical Game 3 in Oakland. And the Yankees got the better of it with a 4-0 victory. Josh Brown comes up again big in the playoffs. 6 innings pitched, no earned runs allowed, and then a 3-inning save for Harder out of the bullpen. So the Yankees have bounced back from that Game 1 defeat to take a 2-1 lead over the Oakland A's here in the American League Championship Series. Game 4, Tyler Fullman on the mound for the Yankees was 7-7 with a 4.03 ERA, going against Counter Breedlove, 8-3 with a 3.64 ERA for the A's. Yankees trying to put a stranglehold on this series today here in Oakland, but they do not accomplish it as Oakland wins in front of the home crowd to take a 5-3 lead. It's now a 3-game series between these two teams who are tied 2-2. Bo Bichette and Shiku Shu hit home runs for the Yankees in the loss. So moving on to Game 5 in the series, Oakland won 6-0 in Game 1, a rematch between the Aces, Bobby Chapa and Chris Hopwood here in Oakland. And the Yankees, with a 5-2 win, bounce back. Home runs from Wander Franco and Victor Mejias for the Yankees. Chapa with a respectable performance, 5 2/3 innings, 2 hits allowed, and then some excellent relief from Harder, Wallace, and Sims to shut down the A's over the final 4 1/3 innings in this extra inning victory. The Yankees score 3 runs in the 10th to win it. Victor Mejias with a monster game, and Wander Franco, though, with the 3-run homer in the top of the 10th to put the Yankees ahead. So a 3-2 lead for the Yankees as they prepare to head back to the Bronx for Game 6 of the American League Championship Series. And it will be a rematch of Game 2 with Jorge Boyer and Tyson Neighbors on the mound. And the Yankees have moved on to the World Series, where they will be facing the Chicago Cubs, who beat the Mets 4-1. So can't ask for anything better than the two best teams in baseball, both 100-win clubs, facing off in the 2036 World Series. The 108-54 Yankees against the 105-57 Cubs. Two of the biggest cities in the United States and two of the most storied franchises in Major League Baseball history will be facing off here in the 2036 World Series. So the two best teams in baseball here in the Bronx, the Yankees, as we've talked about, led the American League in runs scored and were 5th in runs against, going up against a very well-balanced Cubs team that was 2nd in the NL in runs scored and 2nd in runs against. No surprise to figure out how they were 105-57 with those types of stats in their favor. Game 1, Yankees ace Bobby Chapa on the mound against Duilo Dini for the Cubs. 5-3 with a 2.66 ERA for the Cubs. Looks like he came over from Boston during the season. Pitched much better with the Cubs than he did with the second-place Red Sox. Yankees' goal is obviously to get this World Series off to a start with a win in Game 1. and they get the 5-1 victory. The Yankees, 3 wins away from a potential World Series championship. Bobby Chapa, brilliant, allowed 2 hits and 1 walk over 7 innings while striking out 11. And the Yankees scored enough runs to win. Markin, the right fielder, with 2 runs batted in for the Yankees in the 5-1 victory here in Game 1 of the 2036 World Series. So moving on to game number 2, Tyson Neighbors, who has been brilliant in the playoffs, 3-0 with a 1.83 ERA after going winless in 10 games between AAA and the major leagues in the 2036 regular season, going up against Mike Roche, who was 11-5 with a 4.66 ERA. And the Cubs bounce back, hand Neighbors his first loss of the postseason. Looks like Bobby Witt Jr. is now a Cub and hit a couple of home runs to lead them to an 8-3 victory. So the Cubs have seized home field advantage from the Yankees before we head off to Chicago for the next 3 games of this series. And, very bad news for the Yankees. Wander Franco diagnosed with knee tendonitis. He is out for the rest of the season. So the 6-time American League MVP who joined the Yankees as a free agent 2 years ago, his year is over. Hit .297 with 26 homers and 90 ribbies, 127 OPS plus. Will be a big loss for the Yankees in the middle of our lineup as we try to bounce back from the loss and win this World Series. So Wander Franco will be moving to the disabled list, take him off of the playoff roster. And the Yankees will need to bring up someone to help. A lot of decent options. Dave Grazer, Paul Sandwell, Josh Siegmund is just a utility infielder, probably not the right choice. Elias Mendoza may be the way to go. Left-handed bat. Hit pretty well down in AAA. Definitely going to be a huge loss to have Wander Franco out of the lineup, but I think that Elias Mendoza is probably the strongest of our options. You can see he's slightly above average major league hitter, can only play first base. Probably not going to get a ton of action for us, but he will be a potential bat to pinch hit for us when need be. My assumption is that Victor Mejias will slide into the starting position at second base for Wander Franco, and that Kevin Blunt will move into third base. But let's see what the manager wants the lineup to look like. And, a very strange lineup. He is actually going to be playing Gavin Killen at second base. He's our utility infielder, does not hit much, but he is a very good defensive second baseman. That will leave Kevin Blunt on the bench to, hopefully pinch hit in a significant situation. He's not as good defensively, so interesting that our first-year manager is going with defense rather than offense here in the playoffs. So we will move back into the playoff mode, and we are now in Chicago, where Josh Brown on the mound for the Yankees, picked him up at the trade deadline against Garrett Edwards, a former Yankee who the Yankees had made a big trade with the White Sox many seasons ago. He's now been playing for the Cubs for the last several seasons. was 5-5 this year with a 4.42 ERA. He tries to get some revenge against the Yankees from moving on from him several years ago. But the Yankees get their revenge on Edwards. A 3-1 victory for the Yankees, a home run from Bo Bichette. Big road win for the Yankees. Got a decent but short start from Brown. Only allowed 1 run over 4 2/3, and then the Yankees bullpen completely shut down the Cubs after that. Big game from Bichette, as we talked about, 2 for 5 with 2 runs scored and a run batted in. Bravo and Shiku Shu also drove in runs for the Yankees. So a 3-1 victory in Chicago for New York. Obviously, the goal for the Yankees is to hopefully take at least one more game in Chicago so they can go back to New York with 2 chances to win the title. But need to get another W before that will be the case. Tyler Fullman on the mound for the Yankees against Tony Fiallo, 28-year-old who was 10-12 with a 5.16 earned run average for the Cubbies. And the Yankees with a 7-0 victory. Got a home run from Gabe Colon, and obviously a very good pitching performance from Fullman. 6 2/3, 4 hits, 1 walk, and 9 strikeouts. Good relief from Harder, Wallace, and Cambria. The Yankees are 1 game away from a World Series championship here in the year 2036. Moving on to Game 5, a rematch of Game 1, which is the only game the Cubs have won in the series. A chance for the Yankees ace Bobby Chappa to get some revenge and to clinch a world title for the Yankees. And the series is over. The New York Yankees have won their 30th World Championship, and Old School Sports has won our 3rd World Series championship with the Yankees since we fired Brian Cashman and took over as general manager. 15 years running the Yankees, 3 World Championships, and 13 consecutive playoff appearances as the New York Yankees win their 30th World Series championship. Looking at the box score, solid game for Chappa. 5 innings pitched, only allowed 1 earned run. Pozos did get banged around to make things close, but then Kaku and Cambria close things out. 10-4 victory for the Yankees. Bravo with a big game. 3 for 3, 3 runs scored, 3 runs batted in. And he was named the most valuable player of this 2036 World Series. So the Yankees, who were in win now mode all year, did what they needed to do to get the World Championship. That was our goal. That was ownership's goal. And obviously the long postseason run is also going to help our financial performance. So it's hard to imagine that ownership's not going to be happy after a performance like this. The Yankees bounce back from losing Game 1 of the World Series to take the 2036 title 4-1 against the Chicago Cubs. And the Yankees are World Series champions, as I mentioned, for the 30th time in franchise history. Tyler Fullman voided the last year of his contract, so will be some work to do for the Yankees this offseason. Brad Kreider, our goal was to win the championship, and we did that. He's still upset that we haven't increased profit. Hard to imagine someone being so angry about a World Series championship, but that is the way that Brad Kreider rolls. New budget of $328 million for next season allows us a team payroll of about $270 million. Cody Bellinger, longtime Yankee who we did win one World Series with back in 2026, has recently retired. Yankees going to retire his number, losing a few players from Hudson Valley. And our scouting director, Jimmy Haynes, is going to retire. That will leave a big mark for the Yankees. He was an excellent scouting director for us. Our contract has been extended for another 3 years. And we're also going to be losing our manager in the FCL. Actually, he's leaving because we didn't want to renew his contract at this point. So no real loss there. Taking a look at the Yankees season, that 108-54 record was actually much better than anticipated. We were projected to be 101-61, so 7 games to the favorable side with the Yankees record. You can see a staggering offense that was first in the American League in almost every category offensively. We were second in home runs and 12th in walks and ranked third in base running. But other than that, the Yankees were the best in the AL in every offensive category. Pitching was a bit more mixed. 15th in ERA, or 5th in ERA, but 15th. Last in the American League in starters ERA, and we still won 108 games. Obviously helped by a bullpen that was second best in terms of ERA in the American League, as well as our awesome offense. Pitcher WAR was third, hits allowed were fourth, BABIP ranked 11th, home runs allowed were tied for fifth. The strikeouts were second, probably one of the best stats we have, except the second in our bullpen ERA and second in strikeouts, and a decent defense, fifth in defensive efficiency and fourth in zone rating. But we have gone with quantity rather than quality over the last couple of years in our starting rotation. Just haven't found a big ace starter to add to the team. And it kind of showed up with a 15th in the league ERA. Obviously not where you want to rank, but still won the World Series and won the most games in baseball despite those issues. But does let us know that as we start preparing for the off season, adding some high quality starters should be on the top of our list of things to do. And if we want to add some starters and they're available, we should definitely have the money to do so, with $74 million potentially available for free agents. The big reason for that is obviously Bo Bichette and his $35 million contract coming off the books. We're going to have to figure out what to do at shortstop next year, whether or not we want to extend him. Gold Glove catcher Drew Romo is also going to be a free agent. So big changes there. And we know that Tyler Fullman has already opted out of his contract for next season. So definitely going to be some work to do in this offseason with these world champion Yankees to be able to put themselves into a position to repeat again next year. And looking at this incredible Yankees offense that dominated the American League, Gabe Cologne, brilliant right fielder, another awesome season for him. Batted .284 with 32 home runs, 97 driven in, OPS plus of 132, and a WAR of 5.5 on the season. Kevin Daniels, the brilliant center fielder, probably going to be the American League MVP after hitting .331, tied for the league lead with 45 home runs, and led the league with 136 runs batted in. Put up a glittering 1.039 OPS, a 175 OPS plus, and 8.6 WAR on the season. Also did forget to mention that Gabe Cologne had a 30-30 season with 32 home runs, 36 stolen bases. World Series MVP Dave Bravo, who we, similar to Cologne, extended last offseason. monster year, 39 homers and 118 runs batted in, 133 OPS plus, and a 4.4 WAR. Victor Mejias, who took over at third base this year, 10 homers, 62 ribbies, batted 294, just slightly above league average with his OPS plus, 2.8 WAR on the season. A monster year for Bo Bichette at the age of 38, bouncing back from an injury-plagued 2035 to bat 295, 35 homers, 104 runs batted in, put up a 7.8 WAR. If not for the monster season that Daniels had for us in center field, Bichette would probably be a pretty legitimate MVP candidate. Right fielder Eric Markin, his first full season in the majors at the age of 28. This late bloomer batted .321 with 16 homers and 80 runs driven in, 138 OPS plus for him, 3.7 WAR. The veteran left fielder Shiku Shu, 255, 27 homers, 77 runs batted in, 116 OPS plus, and a 3.3 WAR. Interestingly, our perennial Gold Glove catcher Drew Romo, negative .8 WAR on the season, just a brutal 167 batting average and just a 39 OPS plus. Would have to think for it to only be a minus .8 WAR. He was still pretty solid defensively. You can see he's still 80 in catcher ability, 70 in catcher arm. Looking at his fielding stats for the year, made just 2 errors, pretty strong range, good efficiency, catcher ERA of 4.02. We'll see how it ends up looking in terms of the Gold Glove voting for him. Eric Kerr's utility outfielder for us, 285 average, 11 homers, 37 ribbies. Kevin Blunt, utility infielder, hit .258 with 6 homers and 20 ribbies. Backup catcher Doug Kokaruda, who could be taking over for Romo next year, hit a little better, batting .219 with 4 homers and 19 runs batted in. He is also a very good defensive catcher, although he does not have anywhere near the arm that Drew Romo does. And that awesome offense allowed the Yankees to overcome a pretty mediocre pitching staff. You can see nobody on the Yankees roster actually qualified for the ERA title, which is kind of crazy. Josh Brown, 7-14 record combined between the Yankees and the Diamondbacks, but obviously had a few key wins in the playoffs that we've already talked about. So happy that we added him at the trade deadline, particularly with the injury to Jack Leiter. Angel Lara ended up starting 27 games for us because of the injuries that kind of plagued the team all season long to our pitching staff. Went 8-8. Tyler Fullman, 7-7, 4.03 ERA, which was good for a 118 ERA plus, and a 2.4 WAR. Also got a 2.4 WAR from our ace Bobby Chapa, who was 11-8 this year with a 4.33 ERA. Josh Cambria started 5 games for us, a glittering 12-1 record for Cambria, 3.74 ERA, put up 0.6 WAR. The reliever, Thomasine Kaku, who actually did start 1 game for us, pitched 105 innings, obviously primarily in relief, with 152 strikeouts, great 2.66 ERA, 181 batting average against him, and he put up a 2.0 WAR. Excellent year for him. Looking at a couple of other key players, Tim Wallace, our closer, spent a little time on the IL this year, but still 7-3, 32 saves, 78 strikeouts, and 58 2/3 innings, 2.76 ERA, good for a 172 ERA plus, and 1.1 WAR. And a couple other relievers also had really good years. Danny Harder, 7-3 record, saved 7 games for us when Wallace was injured primarily. 100 strikeouts and 72 in a third innings and 1.6 WAR, and we got a 1.8 WAR from Greg Sims. The rookie was 2-1. 71 strikeouts in 44 and a third innings pitched for the Southpaw. Looking forward to see what he can do next year. And then we talked about Tyson Neighbors a lot in the playoffs. Pitched 8 games during the regular season as he was recovering from a serious injury. Did not win a game in the regular season, but was fantastic for us in the playoffs. Won some big games for the Yankees as we won the World Series. So as we finish the episode, we will look at the scoreboard in a manner of speaking. 15 seasons for Old School Sports as the general manager of the New York Yankees. We took over and fired Brian Cashman as Yankees fans, greatly frustrated with the roster that he had put together and the fact that the Yankees had won only one World Series in his final 21 years as general manager. We thought we could do better, and thus far we have. After kind of dumping a bunch of contracts and really kind of changing the philosophy of the team away from players who don't play very good defense and strike out excessively and only try to hit home runs. The Yankees have been pretty successful. 13 consecutive playoff appearances over the last 13 years. 13 out of 15, obviously, while we've been general manager of the team. .594 winning percentage over those 15 seasons. And most importantly, the 2026, 2034, and now 2036 World Championships. So 3 titles in 15 years. I think it's fair to say that we have done what we intended to do in this playthrough and done a better job as the general manager of the New York Yankees in terms of winning world championships than Brian Cashman has recently been doing. So thank you so much for watching. We will be back with our next episode in which we'll kind of decide on the future of this series, whether it's time to move on with OOTP 23 now out there, or do we want to play another couple of seasons to kind of rebuild this not rebuild this Yankees roster. We're obviously coming off of a great season, but it is going to be a different situation with no Bo Bichette, who has been with us at this point since 2027. So 10 years, 2 large contracts with the Yankees, first a 6-year contract and then a 4-year extension. He's wrecked physically at this point, although he had that fantastic season. Still a very good defensive shortstop, and despite a batting profile that looks only slightly above average, put up a monster offensive season for us this year. But he's wrecked physically at this point, and he also has a disruptive influence in the clubhouse. So have to see what he's looking for, and then decide what to do. And as I mentioned, between Bichette and Romo, we have 2 premium defensive players at 2 premium defensive positions that we're going to be potentially losing this offseason. And we also need to think about what we need to do to revamp the top of our pitching rotation and hopefully get a better performance from our starters than we did in 2036. But complaining about their performance is the definition of nitpicking, because the Yankees are your 2036 world champions. Until our next episode, thank you so much for watching, and hope you have a great day.